We are now? Okay. Jane, are we ready in the front? We are ready. Okay. Well, good morning. Today is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149. Conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only and offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us online by going to our website. Live stream is also available at tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners Office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for public comment at the meeting this morning? Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we have called to order. I would invite those in the room to please sign the guest list, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Fournier, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, absent any public comments, we do not have any non-agenda items. I will be moving agenda item 8 up to immediately follow agenda item 5, as we have Melody Ayers from Adventist with us who will carry both of those items today. So we will start with item 5, consideration of a reimbursement agreement with the Northwest Adventist Health Tillamook for the opioid substance abuse disorder program. And as I said, we have Melody Ayers, our Tillamook opioid substance use response project director, with us today. Good morning, Melody.
Good morning, commissioners. Just by way, first of all, of apology, the agreement that was previously signed for opioid settlement funding to help our Tillamook with the strategic planning document that we worked on from August through December and accomplished. When push came to shove and we went to submit invoices to reimburse for the expense of the consulting, we realized that an attorney somewhere along the line, not this one, had added that the agreement was effective as of the last signature, which was December 12, which was past any of the invoices that have been paid for the consulting services. So with your consideration and your forbearance, basically, we have now presented an agreement that moves the starting date back to July 16. Nothing, my understanding is that nothing else in the agreement has changed, just that we got the starting date back where it should have been all along. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Is your mic on, Melody? I'm sorry. I just got a wave from the back. Is it glowing green?
It's flashing red.
It's flashing red. Look at that. We have our technical.
It's green. I can hear myself.
Go.
Do you need me to repeat all of that for the record?
You need to repeat that for the record. I'm looking at Rachel. No, we do not. So.
Okay. A summary, much shorter, is that the agreement before you today is with a corrected date that moves the initial date back to cover all of the deliverables that were paid for by Adventist Health as a part of the consulting contract.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
None for me.
None for me.
Perfect. This is a housekeeping item. Appreciate you coming forward to clean that up for us. Okay. I would be looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a reimbursement agreement with Northwest Adventist Health Tillamook for the opioid substance abuse disorder program.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 8. Consideration of grant agreement JMD-25-18 with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission for the Jail-Based Medications for Opioid Use Disorder Grant Program. And we have again Melody Pierce.
So just to be clear, this agreement that is before you today is an agreement between the County of Tillamook and the State of Oregon for this grant award. Having said that, the Jail-Based Medication for Opioid Use Disorder Grant is intended to primarily fund medications given to adults in custody, medications and other treatment given to adults in custody who have substance use disorder and opioid use disorder. Since 2015, Adventist Health Tillamook has been the medical services partner with the Tillamook County Jail. And we have those intake and medical assessment pieces of that work that is reflected in this agreement that the county has now is contemplating with the state. Dr. Halferty estimated, he's our medical director for the jail services, estimates that at least 80% of adults in custody on that initial intake have some level of alcohol use disorder, substance use disorder, opioid use disorder, and any combination thereof, 80% of that. We've been cobbling together some other funds to help do some to provide these medications that are helpful for folks. They're in a structured environment, and it's a good time for them to be able to start a clean and sober journey. If that, it's kind of not their choice at the time, but it can be their choice even on transition out of custody. And so this funding was offered by the state to pay for the medication and other treatment being offered in the jails, as well as they strongly encouraged that there would be a component that would be focused on transition services. So someone is in custody, they have gotten clean and sober, they're like, yeah, this is the life I might like to lead. How do we make sure that that transition is as smooth as possible, and that there are as many supports as possible in place to help that decision be carried out for the long term? You get out, and having not been inside, I'm having to extrapolate here, but I can only imagine that getting out of jail and then needing to have transportation to get to my appointments. Housing, we all know, is a really short supply in Tillamook, and probably especially for folks who have just been in custody. And your insurance takes a while to get going back up again, because you lose that when you are taken into custody. So this grant is paying for the treatment, paying for the transition planning. We have two partners with housing in Tillamook County related to housing that we had talked to going into this to say, how can we best partner to make sure that there's housing available? And the overall budget is $298,944 that would be coming to Tillamook County that otherwise would not be coming here. Of that, $190,000 is been budgeted for treatment. Some of these medications that can help allay the cravings, help keep those at a manageable level, are ridiculously expensive. $1,000 to $3,000 a dose. And that is hospitals' contract fee with our pharmacy companies. That's not even counting what it takes to administer that. So in the budget, there was $190,000 for meds and treatment, $79,050 for transition planning, to include housing, to include transportation, to include some planning that there may be some workflows that need to be set up, and that could help support that, as well as $29,894 that the county has as its opportunity to be reimbursed for indirect expenses. So that's pretty much the gist of it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Perfect, thank you. I do see the sheriff is online, and I had offered for him to present if he'd like. I don't know if he has any comments he would like to make. Would certainly be open to that if he would like to start.
I don't have any, excuse me, I don't have any comments on that. Melody did a good job summing it up.
Perfect, thank you, Sheriff. Commissioners, questions or comments?
I'm fully supportive of this, and I'm encouraged that we can offer substance abuse treatment to individuals who need it and who are in jail. I think that's a great service, and I'm fully supportive.
And I just want to say I'm grateful that the jail has an agreement with Adventist Health. I've seen it firsthand, and the great staff, and this is just another example of that. So.
Counselor, is your microphone on?
Paul, I remember when we contracted for services out there, and it was always, kind of hit and miss when the doctor could come over the hill and spend a day a week, and I always kind of had my fingers crossed that, something could happen out there and we didn't have the right medical attention for the adult in custody, and then Adventist Health came along, and I agree totally.
It's been
Paul.
fantastic.
It really took from a risk management perspective, really made a big difference too.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Melody, I agree. I think the opportunity for persons in custody to get started with some of these treatments is absolutely crucial. And we talk regularly just about how it's challenging to make that transition out of custody and get to housing and support and all of those things. We've all seen folks walking down the road with their paper bag. And boy, it's amazing how often when I was working at CARE, we would hear the stories about, we know they're getting released, we have housing for them, and they would never make it from the release to the housing. So having that transition support, I just am ecstatic that that's going to exist, and super hopeful that that will really make a change. So thank you for instability in our internet this morning. So forgive us if you lost us for a minute. Hopefully we're back for everyone. I believe we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of grant agreement JMD-25-18 with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission for the jail-based medications for opioid use disorder grant program.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melody.
And thank you for being with us this morning in person. Always good to see you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6, which is consideration of a contract for goods with CO Master Portland for a Falcon Hotbox trailer. We should have Chris Laity, Director of Public Works.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So first we have paving roads, and then the next step below that is patching roads with asphalt, hot asphalt, and below that is cold mix. So we have a 1980s, late or early 90s hot box machine. They put hot asphalt into it, and then you scoop that out with shovels, you dump it out of the back, you put it on the road, and then you roll it. So this is similar to what we're looking at purchasing through this contract, and that allows us to bring hot asphalt, and that is a much better long-term solution. There are a lot of locations where we can't go out there and pave the entire road. Some places are good roads or just have a couple really bad stretches. So this helps to fill a middle ground niche for that. We went out for 3 quotes. The Falcon Hotbox trailer presented in front of you for $49,897.81 is the low cost of the 3 that were able to meet our specs. Like to be able to purchase this.
Thank you. Questions or comments, Commissioners?
Well, I was out there on Tuesday for one of his safety meetings, and he showed me the current hot box, and it's once again, pretty much an antique, and just shows how much life we get out of this equipment in this county. I can't even believe it. Some of the trucks there again were there when I started in 2001. So I'm happy that he's going to purchase a new one.
All right.
Likewise, I think we need it and we should get it.
In agreement. Thank you. I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a contract for goods with Seal Master Portland for a Falcon Hotbox trailer.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7, consideration of a professional services agreement with Shannon and Wilson for a mining plan consultation at the Nehalem Quarry. Ms. Landy.
So we own and operate two quarries, rock pits, one of which is the Nehalem Quarry located off of North Fork Road. This is a primary source for all of our rock that we use to put onto our roads, particularly the gravel roads. That pit is starting to, we need to expand it a little further in order to continue to excavate material out of that. The first step of this is to come up with a plan. And then that plan this is the initial review of it, and that will start to determine a longer term plan that we would submit to Department of Geology and Mineral Industries, DEGAMI, and that would allow us to go out there, blast, and start crushing rock, which we contract that out. We no longer have the capability of doing that. We used to do that back in the early 90s. That went by the wayside. So the first step in this problem is contracting with Shannon Wilson, presented in front of you. They did the previous quarry expansion planning and permitting that took place around 2014. The agreement requesting for $25,285.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Commissioner?
None for me.
Okay, I would just remind everyone that the roads department is a special revenue fund, and as we talk about all of the different things that we're doing, that is not general fund money. So just always useful to continue to set the context, I think.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a professional services agreement with Shannon and Wilson for a mining plan consultation at Nehalem Quarry.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item number 9. No. That was it. Oh my gosh, look at that. We will be, but we will not actually move on to item 9. Item 9 is a time certain public hearing for 10 a.m. So we will, is there anything else we need to say? Just we will recess. We will recess this meeting at 9:18 and we'll come back at 10 a.m. for our public hearing. Well, we were close. 18, pretty close to 15.
All right, Jane.
Are you staying, Jane? Staying for the hearing? Staying for the hearing at 10.
It's our moment of silence that happens so often when we're almost there, but not quite. Okay. It is 10 a.m. I will reopen the Board of Commissioners meeting. We will now have our 10 a.m. certain public hearing, and this is the first public hearing concerning a third amendment to ordinance number 74, imposing a 15% transient lodging tax within Tillamook County, providing for up to a 14% TLT credit within cities, creating a promotion and tourism fund, providing for collection and enforcement, and establishing penalties. Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff, will provide for us some input to this item. So Debbie, how many people do we have registered? We have one in the room, and online we had no one. Is that correct? Okay, perfect. Okay, so we have set aside a significant time in this meeting for public comment, so I do hope we'll be able to hear from everybody. And if folks have joined online who did not sign up, I think we will probably offer that opportunity because we have time in our agenda today. So I'll just set that as a context. We will not be deliberating this morning. We will continue this public hearing into the evening at the Port of Tillamook Bay. So this morning we will be simply listening to public comment and listening to the staff report. So Rachel, I think we are ready for the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let Debbie load the presentation. hoping this clicker works. Oh, there we go. I didn't hit it hard enough. Okay, so I thought before we going into the proposed revisions, that it would be helpful to provide some background on the current administration structure and the taxation of the TLT. So there's guiding laws in state statute and county ordinances that authorize and govern how the county imposes and administers the transient lodging tax, or TLT. Those state statutes are ORS 320 300 through 320 365. And we have two county ordinances, Ordinance 74, and we're currently on Amendment 2, and Ordinance 75, and we're currently on Amendment 2 with that one as well. So relative to the proposed amendments that the county is proposing, these two statutes are the most relevant to today's discussion. The definition of a tourism-related facility means a conference center, convention center, or visitor information center, or other improved real property that has a useful life of 10 plus years and has a substantial purpose of supporting tourism or accommodating tourist activities. And secondly, 320, 350 sub 6 says at least 70% of the net revenues from local TLT shall be used for purposes described in subsection 5A, which is tourism promotion or tourism-related facilities that I just described, or C, financing debt of tourism-related facilities in this section. Additionally, no more than 30% of the net revenue collected from TLT may be used for the purposes described in subsection 5B, which is funding city or county services. Debbie, it might be quicker for you to, I think there's a play with the, thank you. So for our local laws, Ordinance 74, Amendment 2, was the original Amendment 74 was approved by the voters in November of 2013, which provided taxation beginning in January of 2014. It imposed a countywide tax of 10% and included a not to exceed credit of 9% for the cities. And it set forth 30% that was at the county's discretion for county services in the statute I just referenced. The county and the voters approved that 30% would go to public works for road maintenance. Also out of the 30% is general fund expenses. So when revenues come into the county budget, 70% goes to tourism promotion and tourism related facilities per statute. And the 30% is split between the general fund expenses and administering the TLT first, and then the balance of the 30% goes to the Public Works Department. Ordinance 75, which we are not talking about amending, describes how the tax is implemented, collection duties, establishes the tax review committee, which is available for appeals of taxation, TLT taxation, and describes how the county will contract with a contracting entity to implement destination marketing, promotion, et cetera. And the county has decided, as you know, for several years to contract with the Tillamook Coast Visitors Association for those activities. And lastly, Ordinance 75 describes the implementation, sets forth that the implementation and administration of the TLT funds needs to be contained in a board order and policy. Next. So this slide summarizes the current taxation. There's three types of TLT tax within Tillamook County. The state tax, which the county has no control over. The county tax, which is 10% with the credit of up to 9% in the cities. You see that value reflected there by the 1%. And then the cities also have their own tax, and that varies among the cities, bringing the total to varying between 11.5 and 12.5% in unincorporated areas and the cities, depending on the city's tax. Next. So as the county has begun looking at diversifying and increasing revenue sources to maintain a sustainable budget, transient lodging tax has been identified as an opportunity. The increase does require voter approval. There are lots of legislative efforts that occur every year to change the 70-30 split, as we call it, and how those revenues can be used at the county's discretion. Nothing has been changed in the last several years. We are now in another legislative session, and as you know, there are efforts again, probably the most earnest that I've seen in my time here that may have some traction. But when we're talking about trying to change 70-30 split and how the county can use those funds, we don't have any discretion other than what's in the 30%. But there are efforts at the legislature going on right now. The board has been talking about this increase in earnest since last April, almost on a monthly basis in their board briefings and board meetings. And as the concept in the draft was starting to solidify, that language that was starting to solidify, there were conversations with city mayor and managers in summer and fall. And all of those discussions at the board and the cities, with the board and the cities, have led to the draft that is before you today for public hearing. Next, please. So there are two primary revisions to Ordinance 74 that are being proposed. One is the tax itself, and the other is how the new revenues, as we'll refer to them, be used. So this first slide is, there's a lot on the slide. I wanted to show it because to describe the change in the tax, I felt it was important to put the language up there, but I'm not going to go through all of the language. But basically, the current tax is 10%. The county is proposing to increase it to 15%. And then in sub B, the credit then goes from 9% to 14%, which allows for the county to ultimately keep 1% if the cities do in fact increase their taxes. Okay, next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So the next section in the ordinance to revise is how the revenues are going to be distributed. Everything on this slide is what the current language is, with the exception of the orange text that says first 10%. So it was very important in these discussions, hearing from the board, that the current sitting commissioners wanted to honor the prior voters' approval and prior commissioners' decision to provide the large portion of the 30% to public works. And so in looking at an increase now, there wasn't a desire to adjust that. And so in order to have the ordinance amendment reflect that, we needed to separate the original 10% and the new 5%. So the revision to this section of the ordinance just clarifies this is the first 10%. Nothing changes there. 70% still goes to tourism promotion and tourism-related facilities, and the 30% to general fund expenses and roads. So that's just a clarification setting up for the next section. Next slide. Sub B of this same section, this is all new language that is proposed. I have remaining in bracket because it was not in the language that is posted, and in preparing for this presentation, I thought maybe we should add that clarifying language in there. So for the remaining 5% of this total 15%, 70% goes to tourism promotion and tourism-related facilities, same statute or same language as you saw in the prior slide. And then the 30% of the new 5% would be distributed in three ways. 80% to the Sheriff's Office for Public Safety Services, 10% to the Communications Department for Public Safety Emergency Communication System. This is the radio system, and I do want to clarify that, as you know, the radio bond passed for the construction of the new system. These revenues are not meant to, well, they could, not meant to help construct that system. That's what the bond is for. This is for future maintenance of that system. And we can use the funds now in the general fund to maintain the current system because it's going to be several years until the new system is constructed. And the third piece that's slated to receive revenues from this new money is 10% to the Emergency Management Department for emergency management services. Okay, next slide. And lastly, this is language proposed to be in the ordinance. We wanted to make it clear that these revenues received from the transit lodging tax funds to go to these general fund departments are not intended to be in addition to current budgets, but to offset general fund costs. It is not, it does not prohibit general fund monies to be added to those departments, but just to be clear, it does not mean those departments get more money. They can, but it's meant to be an offset. Next slide. So here is a summary of what I just described. Our current taxation varies between 9 and 10 in cities, the 10% county tax, and then there's a credit of up to 9%. The proposed taxation with the counties increase, the cities would still be at 9 to 10%. That is in their jurisdiction to change. County tax would increase to 15%, and then the credit would be up to 14%. Next slide. And this is a summary of, this is an update of the prior slide I showed that has the total taxation. And the important point to note here is you see an increase in the county and the cities because this contemplates the cities not changing. But if they did increase their tax like they did the last time the first time this was approved, the tax was approved, those 6s and 5s in the county column would drop to 1. And the city tax would increase and the total. Next slide. This is a summary of the distribution. So the original 10%, 70 to promotion of facilities, and of the 30, TLT expenses offsetting our general fund costs and public works. And the new money, 70%, again 100% to promotion of facilities, and the 30% split, 80 to the sheriff's office, 10% to radio system, and 10% to emergency management. Next slide. Here's where we are in the timeline. There have been a few town halls that occurred at the Port of Tillamook Bay about a week and a half ago. That was more of a broader stakeholder outreach meetings, gathering input, and we are now in the formal public hearing process. These meetings have been noticed in the Headlight Herald per statute. We are currently at the January 29th public hearing. We are only required to have 2 hearings, but we have a third one, so we can have one in the evening outside of the traditional Board of Commissioners meeting. So we have one tonight at 5:30 at the Port of Tillamook Bay. And then the third and final hearing where you would consider adopting it, if you choose to, is February 12th at 10 a.m. And if approved, the current draft contemplates the ordinance being effective July 1 of 2025 if it passes the May election. Next slide. And here is the timeline for the election. At your February 19th board meeting, you would need to approve the ordinance going to ballot, and then the ballot deadline, February 28th, and then the election, May 20th. So that is the conclusion of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions, or you can open the public hearing.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that. Commissioners, are there any questions prior to the public hearing?
I don't have any questions, but I want to thank Rachel for that excellent presentation.
No questions? Okay, not hearing any questions, we will go ahead and move on to the public hearing. And forgive me as I just keep checking my notes. I want to make sure we get all of this according to what we need to do to make it all right. So, okay. So in preparation of opening the public hearing, I want to let folks know that we will be taking public comments. We did not have any registered online, but as I referenced earlier, we will offer that in case there are folks who did not get registered. Each public comment will be 2 minutes only, and we will have a timer in the back of the room to monitor those 2 minutes. She's going to give me a signal, and when you have 30 seconds left, I'm just going to hold up my hand so that you know you're in a period to begin to wrap up your public comments. For those who are online, if you do determine you want to give a public comment at 30 seconds, I will simply say 30 seconds so that you know that you need to be wrapping up. And we do this to keep everything fair and equitable. We have 2 more public hearings, and while today it doesn't appear that we have a lot of people hoping to comment, we don't know if that will be the case going forward. And if we allow further public comment today from those who are in the room, it sets a precedent for fairness that we need to do it across all of our hearings. So please do understand that the 2 minutes is being held today, even though you may look around and think, well, that's kind of skimpy. So just as an explanation as to why we're holding to that 2 minutes. My request is, as always, that public comments not be repeated if they've been previously shared. So this is the first public hearing, but for those of you who may have sent public comment in written form, we have all received all of those. We have read all of those. They're in the public record. So we ask you not to necessarily repeat that for us. And again, in the meeting today, it may seem like, well, that's not a big deal because we have a small crowd, but should we get a full house this evening, as an example, it's important for timing purposes. So we again ask you not to repeat public comments that you have already emailed to us. Okay, with that, yeah, I think we are ready, and I'm going to open this public hearing at 10:17 a.m. Public hearing is now open, and we will take comments starting in the room. And I think, Deb, you said we had Annie Bishop. So Annie, if you would like to come to the front, and I know we just said your name, but if you could also identify yourself for the record, and then you will have 2 minutes.
I need a minute for it.
Okay, and can you make sure the microphone's on for me? Is it glowing green?
Now it is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
My name is Annie Bishop. I'm a Tillamook resident. I'm here to hopefully help you understand why the people that are with the STRs and all them are fighting so hard to please don't raise the 5%. I don't know if you do, hopefully you do, know exactly how much just we do already pay to the county. We don't have just our 10% that we pay to you. We have our inspection fees, our licensing fees, our permit fees, our tech fees. Then we have that 10%. Plus also, I don't know if you guys realized, there was that operation fee that you guys added that was a percentage. Found out that you couldn't do the percentage because then that was considered a tax. So then it was turned into just an operating basic fee that we have to pay yearly now. So we've already been in a way taxed higher and pay you guys more. And now you're even asking for more. I know you guys need money. You guys work so hard. I have gone through your budget like crazy because this is what you say you need money for. And so I wanted to understand it. I'm going to say that I really 100% believe there are other ways to fix this, especially going through this. And it's hard, and you guys are in a very hard position, and you have to sit there and do things for the people in your community and make sure that they have it and you can provide for it and give for them. But you're taking away from one area so strongly, you're going to kill it. And then it's going to kill part of your community. And through all of these, if you add it up, they have paid so much, we have to find another way. There has to be another way. And so, I don't know, I hope you listen to it. I know I already did my 2 minutes and I went so fast, but all I can do is if you guys want to put this on, I have to educate people of what's going on with what I believe, and I have to fight for it because I feel so strongly this is not the right road.
Thank you, Annie. Okay, I know we don't have anyone else signed up in the room. Because we have the space, I think we're going to, and we will do that this evening as well to the best of our time allowed. Is there anyone in the room who would like 2 minutes that did not sign up?
Does anybody want 2 minutes that did not sign up?
Please come up and identify yourself, and it will be 2 minutes only.
Peterson, Tillamook, Oregon. I think watching what this lady or what was on the board there, and thank you for your time and patience. There was a discussion about money that was being raised by taxing what you all call short-term lodging. And somehow, as best as I can understand, this is supposed to fix other problems, or we wouldn't be here having this meeting. Uh, As I see it, and what I'm aware of, is in the past 3, 4 years, short-term lodging has been going down, down, down. And it's hard for me to understand how taxing that increases the amount of available funds. You keep taxing more, you get less use, henceforth you get less money, so you have to raise the taxes more. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and I'm the last person that should be talking about that or this, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I didn't see your hand.
No,
go.
she just said 30 seconds. You did great. Thank
You.
you. I'm going to ask at this point online. I have 3 phone numbers. If you are online and you wish to make public comment but not get signed up, if you would like to go ahead and unmute yourself, I'm going to start by calling the number ending in, it looks like 4966. *6 to unmute if you would like to make comment. Not hearing. How about the number ending in 2129, *6 to unmute if you would like to make a public comment? Okay, last one, number ending in 6581, *6 to unmute if you would like to make a comment. Okay, yes, would you like to make a comment? In the room, we have another individual who'd like to make a comment. Do you want to introduce yourself for the record, Jerry?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm Jerry Keene from Oceanside. I've been looking at the website. I've been looking at Oregon Coast Host website. I've been watching the hearings, and it seemed to me one of the basic assumptions that the opponents are offering is that this is going to hurt competitively, that people are going to go to other places because of the high total cost. And I honestly have yet to see any data on how this would make our overall bills and our short-term rentals compare with those in other county. I understand it's going to vary based on whether cities in other counties stack theirs or not. But still, I would think that there would be some way to at least produce some kind of aggregate picture. And I thought maybe it might be in a written staff report, and I can't find it. And I thought maybe that the opponents would provide it, but they haven't done so except rhetorically. So I just thought I would just mention that that piece of data is not out there to judge the opponents' arguments about competition. And if it is available, maybe featuring it at tonight's hearing might be helpful to some people. That was all.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, last call. Okay, not hearing any. Then I believe we are going to continue this public hearing as opposed to close it. I think that was the determination, no deliberations this morning, but a continuance. Is that correct, Bill?
Let's do it that way.
Okay, so at this time, at 10:25, we will recess this hearing for a continuation this evening at 5:30 at the Port of Tillamook Bay in the boardroom. We will reconvene this hearing then. We are recessed from the hearing at 10:25 a.m. And then I believe that I need to end the board meeting itself. Is there anything else for the good of the order or in board comments this morning for the board meeting? No. Okay. I do have one set of announcements. The commissioners will hold 3 public hearings to hear public comment regarding raising county transient lodging taxes. Actually, it's going to be, we're continuing it, so it's technically 2. Does that change? Nope, we're all good. Okay, I keep looking at the attorney, make sure we're on track. This hearing will continue Wednesday, January 29th, today at 5:30 p.m. at the Port of Tillamook Bay Conference Room, 4000 Blent Boulevard in Tillamook. The third and final hearing will be on Wednesday, February 12th, 2025 at 10 a.m. and will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 of the Tillamook County Courthouse, Tillamook. The teleconference number for all public hearings is 1-971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. There is no board briefing scheduled for today, Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. With that, we will adjourn this meeting at 10:26.
Thank you for your presentation, Rachel. It was great. I don't know. I'm curious. No, I don't. I don't. Are we all off?
I don't know that, but I'll find it. Okay. All right. There's on second.